Welcome back to Coach-to-Coach. Today's guest is Juliet O'Rourke. Juliet is a certified ADHD coach who specializes in helping adults with ADHD live more intentional and fulfilling lives. Juliet's mission is to help you embrace your ADHD, identify your unique talents, and develop strategies that work for you so you can navigate life with greater ease, confidence, and purpose. Juliet and I met on Jamie Smart's Clarity Coach training, and we had the pleasure of meeting in person in London in July for the Clarity Summer Camp. Thanks for joining us today, Juliet. It's so nice to see you again.
So nice to see you too, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. So, the way I like to start these off is just to ask what first sparked your interest in coaching?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question actually, because there is a little bit of a tale to that one. I actually was a swimming teacher for 20 years, and I loved it. Before that, I had a career before that in retail sales and buying, and it was quite a stressful job. I realised really it wasn't really the right job for me once I left to go on maternity leave. But I didn't think I realised how stressful it was till I stopped.
Mm,
It's one of those, I didn't ever go back. And I found the swimming teaching because it fitted in with having children. And I loved it. And I used to, teach all children, adults and babies, obviously with their parents.
mm,
But the thing that I loved the most was to teach adults that were terrified of the water.
mm,
And I had people that I had one gentleman in his 80s that had his head pushed under by a swimming teacher. I'd say teacher, if anyone's obviously listening, I just did in quotation marks because obviously that wasn't what we would call a good teacher. Like trying to help him not be nervous, apparently. And he was absolutely terrified from that moment. And so he was my first adult that I taught, and he went from not being able to even get in the pool. In fact, he cancelled our lesson 3 times before he even turned up. And I think we spent the first lesson sitting on the side with his just toes in the water to actually swimming lengths, and being able to tread water in the deep end. And one of my favourite things to tell is that he went to America actually, and he always wanted to swim with the dolphins, and he hadn't done it with his children when they were young, and he just had to watch.
mm.
But his ambition was to do that after learning to swim, and he did it with his grandchildren. And he sent me a postcard, and that was amazing. So there is a connection, I promise you,
Yeah,
with coaching.
yeah,
Um, it basically, I just loved working with people that really, they were terrified of something, and they also judged themselves for that. They kind of, there was a lot of shame, and I could never understand that because I thought, well, it's just a skill that they haven't learned. It's not their fault. It's something, there's reasons why they're scared of this. But there was a lot of judgment about, oh, I should have learned how to swim. And and so I just really, really love to be able to give them that confidence to see them really, learn to thrive in the water and be able to have a life skill as well that they could then enjoy with their family and friends. And yeah, it really was satisfying and teaching children. However, after 20 years of doing it, I kind of felt that there was more to me in a way that I felt that I would could do something more with my brain, really. It
mm,
was it got to the point where it was enough, really. I don't think I could, yeah, I couldn't really get any more, I think, for myself from it. Um, and I decided to train as a therapist because I thought, well, this is, kind of aligned with the swimming teach with the helping people. And I just felt like a lot of people said to me, oh, you're really great at, um, you know, people always came to me and wanted to kind of, I say advice, but it wasn't really advice, more like, I'd listen to them and
mm,
they would, I would give them sort of like just my perspective, I suppose, a different perspective. And they always, I always had that feedback that I was really good at that. So I thought, well, I'll train as a therapist. And then once I was a therapist, I I just said there was something about it that just didn't feel satisfying to me. It was like a bit kind of, and I think therapy's got an amazing place. And I do actually, as we were just talking about, Greg, I do actually call myself a therapeutic coach. But there was a point where I just felt like I really felt that coaching was more about forward momentum and therapy was about healing. And I wanted to be the forward momentum. I wanted to help people with that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's probably what first sparked my interest in coaching was that journey from swimming teacher to therapist and then discovering coaching for myself and realizing, oh, this is what I've always wanted to do my whole life without even knowing that was actually a job. I didn't even
Yeah.
know there was such a thing as a coach. And I think maybe in recent years, maybe I'd heard of this term life coach, but I kind of thought it was for very rich people, maybe, or something.
Mm.
Didn't realize it was actually something that we could all access. And yeah, it turns out that was what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. I feel every day so grateful that I can do this, get paid for it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Me too. Well, I love your story. My wife, she runs the aquatics programs at the University of Guelph here. So the life of a swimming teacher, instructor slash programmer, I know quite well.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I also relate to your previous career in retail because I spent 25 years in grocery retail here doing, merchandising, procurement, kind of roles, buying, and so on. So
yeah,
I relate very well to the high stress environment that you described in the retail business for sure.
yes.
And I love how, to some people it may sound like a trivial story of that 80-year-old gentleman getting to swim with the dolphins and his grandchildren, but like that's, from the way you told that story, you know, for that gentleman, that's a dream come true result. He overcame a lifetime of fear and shame, and I don't know. It sounds to me like it opened up a whole new world of possibilities for him and his grandchildren. So that's an amazing coaching story as I've heard. So I loved it. Thank you. Juliet, I'm curious about your practice and who you're helping and how you're helping them with your coaching.
Yeah, so I am a certified ADHD coach. I did train as a therapist, so I do actually bring that to my coach, and I think it's a really valuable asset that I can bring. So I don't actually call myself a therapist, but I call myself a therapeutic coach because I do think that the two things overlap a lot. But the main difference is, I think that where I would primarily call myself a coach is that it's about forward momentum for my clients. That was the thing that I felt for most of my life that I knew I wanted to make changes. And it wasn't necessarily about healing my past. It was about the present day and how could I, make these changes that were to improve my life or to help to support myself. And so that's the kind of angle I'm coming from is a forward momentum, but then with a therapeutic kind of understanding that I can bring. And yeah, I help all adults really that it doesn't matter if they have an ADHD diagnosis. Some people might just really kind of identify with the traits of ADHD. So I don't, it's not that you need a diagnosis. In fact, in the UK at the moment, in some places, there's a 10-year waiting list to get a diagnosis on the NHS. So yeah, that could be, quite a while that we'd be waiting. So yeah, it's really and it's something that I really do feel passionate about because I struggled my whole life, not even realizing that I had a different brain, a neurodiverse brain. And so once I realized, it opened up so much to me, and it was about like letting go of a lot of shame that I'd carried, and believing that I was broken. And most of my clients do come with the same kind of thinking. Um, and so that's something that I really, is why I'm so passionate about it, because if I can help them realize that they're not broken, and they never needed fixing. They just have a different brain. And that brain needs to support, not to be fixed, to be celebrated, actually, because it really, and that's why I call my business Gifted with ADHD. I believe all people with ADHD are gifted,
Mm,
but they don't always see it that way. So it's for me to help them to see that in a different way is such a gift, really. Again, a gift,
yeah.
ironically. Yeah, so I help adults really in all walks of life. Because with ADHD, the commonalities can actually be huge. It doesn't ever fail to surprise me. And most of my clients, they think that they're unusual and they will say, "Oh, this must sound really weird." And
Mm,
I always love to say, "No, it doesn't. This is totally what ADHD looks like." And and that's why actually that I do actually run a group program and not just one-to-one coaching, which I love one-to-ones. But I found the power of group coaching to be transformative, especially for adults with ADHD, because it allows them to see, allows us to see that we're not alone in these challenges. And I think the main thing that I think where the power comes from is when we can see that somebody that we can see is an amazing, unique individual, and they're bright, they're funny, they're articulate, and everything. And but they have the same challenges as us, and we wouldn't ever shame them or think that they're a failure.
mm,
It helps us to then apply that to ourselves, and to let go of this judgment and this shame that we might have carried our whole life sometimes.
yeah. Yeah. I love that gifted with ADHD frame or notion, that whatever you want to call it. I mean, I can imagine that for many people, if they've struggled for their whole lives with it, they would, it would be the opposite. They would come in thinking that cursed with ADHD and to sort of spin that around the other way and think of it as a gift um, and just open up that possibility for somebody that it's not uh, something to be ashamed of or to hide from or to try and fix, but to be embraced and and leveraged. I mean, once you understand how your brain is actually working, it makes it, instead of fighting against it, you can work with it the way that it operates. So I can imagine for as somebody with ADHD themselves, like there's an immediate kind of comfort level of knowing exactly what your clients are going through themselves and almost a I don't know like a level playing field sort of thing between you and your clients. So I love that.
Yeah. No, if I can just comment on that, Greg, actually,
Absolutely.
that is one of the most powerful things that my clients tell me that they get from the coaching is actually because first of all, as our coach training, especially therapy training, there's a kind of a lot of kind of thoughts about not sharing too much of your own personal story.
Mm,
And but I have found that there are times that to do that is so powerful because most of my clients they just nice they want to hear that I have the same challenges and that um like we were talking earlier, weren't we, that just because we're a coach we don't have everything figured out,
yeah.
and especially a coach. I also have ADHD, so to be able to sort of show them that it's not about being perfect, it's not about having it all figured out, and I will always have ADHD, and I'm proud of that, and but I also have the challenges, and so I was a little bit, when I first thought of the name Gifted with ADHD, I had quite a few people that kind of gave me feedback, including kind of quite high up mentors in the ADHD coaching world, who said, it could be a bit invalidating because people thinking, you're not really taking account of what the challenges look like with ADHD because they are huge. They really are. And it isn't sort of just saying, oh, just embrace your gift and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
And so I was, I did have to think about that a bit, but the more the years have gone on and the more I help people, the more I'm on my own journey,
Mm,
I realize no, that name is you know, it's just right.
Yeah.
It's just right because it isn't about negating any challenges. It's acknowledging them, and that's what ADHD coaching is different to other coaching in a way, because there are real challenges with having a different brain, and there's practical things that people want help with. But there's also the deeper and the kind of bigger picture side of life and our perspective on things that kind of where we share that understanding, Greg, in
Yeah.
the three principles community. Um, it's kind of bringing those two things together, like a practical element, of people want real practical tools, and this bigger picture of life
Mm.
and our spiritual nature. So bringing those two things together, I think is really, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really powerful.
I applaud you for your courage in sticking with that name because it's I mean, your name is good when it rubs some people the wrong way and other people love it. So it's,
Yes.
it's leaning into that and I don't know. For me, the name of my business is Team Unleash Your Potential. Like and so I'm my mission is to help people unleash their potential and coming from a place of whatever you're coping with as a gift versus a curse is a much more abundant approach, a much more an approach full of potential and full of possibilities. So it's just and that even changing your mindset that one way, it opens up a whole world of possibilities that otherwise wouldn't be there. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
I
it. And,
love
and
that.
I'm sure that that's what resonates with people. They want um, they want those possibilities for themselves. Um,
Yeah.
and if you see that in them first, because you've experienced it yourself, that's an invitation for them to follow suit. So I love
And I
that.
think also, really, as I said, I think as I've kind of evolved on my own spiritual path, really as well, it's it's opened up that it's much bigger than the ADHD piece.
Mhm.
So as you know, we talk about in the understanding that we share that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience,
Mm,
and so we are infinite. We are capable of so much more than we ever really knew. And so to me, it kind of like there's the ADHD piece, but then there's even above that, we are all infinite beings anyway. So it kind of, in a way, it's evolved. The name has evolved with
mm,
me in a way, with my journey of seeing that for myself as well.
yeah, yeah, I love that. I'm wondering if you mentioned practical things. Maybe there's some examples you could share either with yourself or with some of your clients in terms of how your coaching has helped them uh, in those practical ways um, uh, manage through their ADHD or to discover the life that they want through the coaching you give them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, there's so much. It's really bespoke for my clients because a lot of people with ADHD don't have a problem knowing what to do. This is actually not my quote, but it's they
Mm,
have a problem doing what they know.
mm,
And so, in fact, many of them have spent, this was my story. I've spent my entire life researching solutions to what I thought was to fix my brain in terms of organizational things, like reading all the self-help books, how to be organized, how to set goals. And really the books, I thought they helped at the time, but then when it came to implementing it always was really, really challenging. And it was because I didn't realize that there was this extra sort of layer that I didn't have and I didn't even know that I needed, which was executive function challenges with our brain. That is mainly one of the biggest challenges is these sort of basic skills of executive function, which is our brain's basic operating procedure. Um, and it explains why somebody with ADHD could be like an incredible scientist and their brain is incapable of many, going off on these many tangents and ways of thinking, and however they may struggle with tidying up their desk,
Mm,
or something like that. So it's something where these sort of more basic things, or like sort of organizational type things, can make, like, I think for me, I felt that I was stupid that I couldn't, do these things.
mm,
And and then again, that's partly where the name for my business came, that I realized, oh no, actually, I'm not stupid. I just have this kind of challenge, like um, a neurodevelopmental challenge where I haven't learnt these skills.
mm,
And so that's partly where I help. Well, not partly, it's a big piece. A big piece of what I do is to teach and help people to get these skills that they were never taught, that they didn't realize there was this missing layer.
mm,
So, like a bridge to everything else.
yeah,
And so, and it isn't about, again, fixing ourselves, but it is about learning things. We can learn things that are sort of building muscles.
mm,
And it could be anything from time management and looking at, I mean, I don't really like the word time management anyway, but I mean, it's just what people kind of like associate with that. But,
yeah,
how to manage ourselves within time, how to, really become more present, and how to, help ourselves to focus, and things to do with, anything that kind of brings us into the present moment. There are lots of practical ways we could do that. Like, for example, you can see I've got a whiteboard behind me.
yeah,
And that's something I do for myself. Again, so this is just one thing I do, is to become aware of what the time is and actually write it on my whiteboard. And then one thing that I want to do, because with ADHD, we can go off on all these tangents and feel very scattered and not know what how much time we have. There's a thing called time blindness, which is part of
mm,
this executive function challenges. So to really make it visible and externalize the time by writing it, in this example, on a whiteboard, this is just one of many
right,
tools. And to really get very specific with the thing that I want to do, and also to set myself a timer for 25 minutes, like a Pomodoro kind of
mm,
time, and then kind of almost like make it a challenge, a game. How can I focus for this time on this thing? It's not
yeah,
about doing the thing, it's more about, can I focus on it?
mm,
And making it fun, making it a game, not gamifying things, is a way to help give an ADHD brain the dopamine that they crave. That's really what all ADHD brains need, is,
mm,
well, they're craving dopamine. So the more we can get ways to bring a bit of fun in, that's actually really helpful.
mm,
So that's a sort of an example of a practical
yeah,
tool.
yeah, very interesting. Yeah. And I suppose, it's not every tool works for every person, I guess. So it's, a little bit of trial and error and sharing and seeing what works for each person. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even within that, with ADHD, we part of the challenge is that we can get quite bored of things, and then we think, oh well, that didn't work then, and I'm just, throw up the baby with the bathwater, I
Right.
think. So, and part of my coaching is to kind of help people realize that, oh, actually, that doesn't mean that the tool's failed. It just means it needs kind of revitalizing. We could get a
Mm,
different tool, we can tweak it, we can, and then, so for example, the thing with the whiteboard is I've done that before, but it gets to a point where it doesn't work anymore.
yeah.
Because that's the whole nature of ADHD. We need lots of stimulation. We need kind of variety, such different things. That's, again, will give us dopamine. And so I'm always sort of encouraging people not to see it ever as a failure. It's like, oh no, let's just try something else now. And then we might go back to that thing when we, at
Yeah.
some point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is. And it's very situational as well, ADHD. Some tools might work in some situations, but not in others.
Mm,
Um, and
interesting.
people might find that they struggle more with their ADHD at home, for example, when there's no structure. And at work, they might kind of be very structured, and actually that can help them because they've got that external structure.
Yeah. Yeah. The talk of failure reminds me of when I first learned about NLP. There's a presupposition in NLP. There's no such thing as failure, only feedback.
Yes.
Uh, I wholly embrace that at work, at home, raising my kids. Try to instill that in my kids too. When if they did poorly on a test at school, or you know didn't do make it, made a bonehead play at soccer practice, or I don't know, whatever it was. It was a learning opportunity, not a success and failure wasn't really the way we needed to organize and relate to the experiences we were having. To
Yeah.
the point, somebody asked me about, a question, uh, you know, tell me about a time when you failed, and I'm just like drawing a blank. And it's because in my brain, when I go into the folder that's labeled failures, there's nothing in there because I don't put anything in the failure folder. I just put it in the learning folder.
It's such a massive mindset shift, isn't it, Greg? I love that. And that is one of the biggest things that I do, always right from the start. I will encourage all my clients to look at it that way because they've had a lifetime of thinking that they are failing, even in
Mm,
something like therapy. I've had clients come to me, they've been through therapy and felt if they didn't realize, especially that they might have a neurodiverse brain
mm,
that they failed somehow at the therapy because
mm.
they weren't doing the like homework, say, for
Yeah,
example. And I would say, if we do, there are things that we might take out into our week as things that you want to change. And if you don't do them, that is never failure. It's like you said, it's data, it's feedback.
yeah,
There would be a reason why. So it's not that we would ignore it. It'd be like, oh, well, let's see, what was it about that particular thing that why you didn't do it? Is it because you were sabotaging? Like in a way, we know that's not really us sabotaging. That's
yeah, yeah,
our protective brain that wants to come in and like protect us from changing sometimes. Um, or is it, that there wasn't the right technique or strategy for you?
yeah.
Maybe it just needed a bit of a tweak. And so, yeah, it's always about looking at it as feedback or data. I love that, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I know Jamie talks all the time, Jamie Smart, about everyone's always doing what makes sense to them at their current level of understanding. So, the reason somebody isn't doing something that they kind of intellectually want to do, well, it's because it's not making sense to their system to do it. That's the short answer. I mean, and then you can, as a coach, you can dig in and try to figure out, well, why isn't it making sense to you? But um, it's for me anyway, that way of thinking removes all judgment, and I don't know, it just makes the whole experience kind of free and fun to unravel the mysteries of our lives, of why we do the things we do or don't do the things that we don't do, and it
Yeah,
comes becomes more of a game. Uh,
yeah.
so I love closing with this question: if there's one thing that you'd want people to take away from this conversation, what would that one thing be?
I think it's to know that they're not broken, they are different. If they are, listening to me and they are, believing that they might have a neurodiverse brain, they're whole and they don't have to do anything. And I think that is, I spent my life thinking I had to change, I had to be different, I had to improve myself. And that's one thing that I found for myself once I realized, oh, actually, I don't have to do anything. I am complete and whole as I am, and having a different brain is actually incredible. Yes, it has challenges, and I think to know that rather than thinking I need to fix myself is about supporting myself. I support my unique brain that is incredible, um, and there's a quote actually, Greg, if you don't mind, I could share,
Yeah, please
which
do.
apparently it's accredited to Einstein, but apparently it wasn't him, so I have no idea who it was. But the quote is, "Everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it's stupid."
Mm,
And when I first heard that quote, I sobbed, to be fair. Because I had spent my whole life believing I was stupid.
mm,
And that's why I celebrate, with that name, Gifted with ADHD, because I realized, oh, actually, I'm not stupid. I'm gifted, and so is everybody.
yeah,
We're all gifted. Um, and that doesn't mean we're mathematical geniuses necessarily. It could be. We are gifted in so many ways in terms of having these unique brains that can think on many tangents. And so yeah, it was a massive awakening for me to realize that. And it's kind of knowing that, yeah, just because you can't climb the tree, there are other ways to travel.
Love it. Love it. If people want to get a hold of you or look up the work you're doing, what's the best way for them to find you?
Yeah, so I'm on most social media things, but maybe if they went initially to my website, which is gifted with ADHD.co.uk. And yes, I'm on LinkedIn. That's quite a good place to find me, but also Instagram and Facebook.
Great. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I've learned a lot and leaving with some inspiration too. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it too. Yeah.